So tell me, what was it like, cooking for your two men, your son and your husband?
Well, I think that if you asked Nick what the most important point in his life growing up was, he would say it was when I stopped being a restaurant critic and started coming home and cooking family meals.
Oh.
That dinner, we sat there for hours every night, and what I've discovered is if you're just running in and out of the house and you say to your kid, how was school? Fine.
Yeah.
But when you sit at the table and you talk about what happened in your day, and your husband talks about what happens in his day, suddenly fine turns into, this happened with Joey and this happened with Sally, and suddenly you can't just say, you can't do it asking direct questions. Right. You need that relaxing, just sitting around and chatting.
Yeah.
And that's what meals do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and that they really, they're not just about the food. They're about the connections that you have with the people at the table.
And they're about saying to the people that you care about, I want to take this time to be with you.
Yeah.
It's much more important than whatever is on the table. Although I do believe that the smell of cooking in a house is the most soothing scent that there is, and that it calms everyone down.
Yeah, and I also think it's one of the biggest memory triggers.
Oh, absolutely.
So, because there's smells that you're like, I remember that smell from when I was, or even a place, like a bakery that just wafted out like fresh baked bread or whatever. And, I was actually just in Vermont this weekend, and one of my favorite places is American Flatbread Pizza in Waitsfield, and just driving by on Route 100, I could smell it. I'm like, I love being here. So and I hadn't been back there for like 8 years. So just that smell took me back to me being younger and, riding my bicycle by there and stuff. So.
Well, the sense of smell is the only one of our senses that is actually in your brain. It's not mediated. When you touch something, the impulse has to go into your brain, but your smell center actually goes directly.
So we don't get to edit it.
Exactly. That's why it's so powerful.
I get it. That makes so much sense. So tell us about, are we going to, I heard there's perhaps, I read in your bio that there's movie rights were sold for...
Fox 2000 has bought Garlic and Sapphires, and there have now been 3 different script writers and we now have a script that's very close.
Great.
And I'm hopeful that this movie will actually get made, although with Hollywood, until it's actually released, you can't count on anything.
Yeah. Well, hopefully if it is made, you can come to the Berkshire International Film Festival with it.
Absolutely.
And then what about your PBS show? How's that going? Are you going to continue with that, or?
Probably not. Adventures with Ruth was the most fun. I shot it all last summer. It was the most fun I've ever had. But the show belongs to Condé Nast.
That.
Which is kind of a problem.
Yeah. And so it'll just have a life of its own, and then could you ever adapt anything, or do you...
We'll see. Yeah. There's been some interest in continuing it. We'll see what happens with it.
And then, and so, are you writing more? Or?
I'm working on 2 books. I'm working on a novel.
Ooh.
And
that's new territory for you, right?
It's new territory, but I actually have a contract to do it, so I have to do it.
Great.
I'm one of those people who needs... I'm a deadline writer.
You have an imagination.
I'm very good at making things up, so it's very fun to make the whole thing up.
Great.
And I'm also working on a cookbook.
Ooh. So your own,
my own.
It's all Ruth, all about Ruth.
Yes, it's my book, not a Condé Nast book.
Great. So things that you've made, you're concocting, you're developing, all.
It's
And will you weave in stories?
It's part memoir, part.
Yeah.
It's like a kitchen diary kind of.
Oh, I love that. I think those are become my favorite types of books these
It's
days.
very personal, and it's very...
Well, we're already personal, so like we know everything about you because you're so honest. So, if you've just joined us, we're at the tail end of Heirloom Meals Radio, and today in the studio I've had Ruth Reichl, who is the former gourmet editor, the former New York Times restaurant critic, LA restaurant critic, prolific writer, memoir writer, recipe writer, all-around great person. And we are about to wrap up, so I want to give Ruth one last opportunity to tell our listeners something profound about cooking and eating. And
Oh, boy, you threw that one at me.
well, I figured I had to throw you a curveball.
No warning here. I think that it's very important for all of us to pay attention to what we're eating more than ever right now. I think that we're at a place in our country where we are very much in danger of developing a two-tier system. I mean, food has become a class issue, and it's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
And I think that we have the opportunity to change that, but we don't have very long to do it. And we really need to be supporting local agriculture, supporting local farmers, understanding that I was in the supermarket in Chatham the other day, and they were selling chicken for 19 cents a pound. That is horrific.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about what you have to do to a chicken to make it
That cheap. Yeah.
it is a really ugly picture. And we need to really, we need to think about fish. We have eaten fish to extinction. I want my grandchildren to know that wild fish, and I'm very much afraid that there will be no wild fish left. What's happening in the Gulf is appalling. I think that I'm very worried about the kind of drilling that is continuing to go on. Now they're talking about drilling up in the Arctic, which is terrifying. I think if there's any issue to get involved with right now, it's this issue of saving the oceans.
Yeah, saving the oceans and saving, good, real food.
Saving real food. And thinking about what fertilizers do to the water table, to
everything.
Yeah.
So we don't want to end on a downer, but that is very profound. And Ruth Reichl here on Heirloom Meals Radio. And if you missed any of this, we will have it up on our blog, heirloommeals.blogspot.com, soon to be heirloommeals.com. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us, Ruth. This has been a tremendous hour.
Well, it's been a real pleasure for me.
Thank you. You're amazing. That was great.